Santa Maria. Y'all are really spoiled tonight because we're moving from one other Forbes 30 Under 30 award winner, Anna Maria won that. Also, I should say she is the youngest voice at NPR. But now we're moving to yet another 30 Under 30 list maker for Forbes. He's also on Apollo's list for 40 Under 40. And I expect maybe someday Zeus's list for 50 Under 50. But he's the founder of Strada. He's innovative, he's collaborative, he's redefining how artists and institutions engage advancements in technology. He merges art, technology, and culture. He's known for his visionary status. He's an advocate, and of course, the famous Brooklyn Museum granted him the Visionary Design Grant. So please welcome Paul Hill.
Hi, Ted. Thank you for having me. I'm Paul. Excited to show you what we've been working on. I was having dinner with a friend of mine recently, actually, and we were just catching up, talking about the state of the world, how she's feeling about, recent election, life, graduating from college, coming back from a recent trip, and just talking. She looked at me and she's like, I think problem solvers are just generally pessimistic people, because they're just always looking for a problem to solve. I was like, wow, such a great friend, thank you. A lot of my friends, though, generally, I think they look at me like, oh, so it's like full of life, like super positive, super optimistic. And I generally feel about that myself as well, but also realistically, every single situation, every environment that I am in, I'm like always looking for a problem. Not necessarily in terms of like confrontation, but just like what can be improved, what can be better. The first problem that I ever sought out to solve was back in 2020. It was the peak of the Black Lives Matter protest, and it was my freshman year of college. I was studying art history and computer science, and I was like, I'm gonna figure something out, I'm gonna do something here. No idea yet. And I was looking at how, at the time, everybody was just posting centralized, or they're posting resources, so either volunteer or donate with an organization fighting for Black Lives Matter. And they would have their 15 minutes of fame, this organization would blow up, and then you would never hear about that organization again. This would happen multiple times a day, every single day, throughout the summer. Realized like we just need one centralized database to be able to select your city, any major city across the US, automatically go in, automatically donate and volunteer with that organization, and commit right away, just to have a bigger impact. That turned into Pronto. First app I ever made, had some assistance with some other friends and students that I studied with at the time. Quickly blew up, had like over 20,000 users within the first month. Had like my first press mention. It was like really exciting. And I feel like we did what we had to do at the time. The protest started to die down, became less of a necessity. And I started thinking as well, like, what can we do that is bigger? I saw the problem, we created the solution, I saw the impact that we had, and the learning that I had, most importantly, was that community-centered solutions to larger complex problems really work. It's the first time I ever had that realization. I knew I wanted to apply it to something else that's bigger in my life. I definitely didn't want to stay at the same scale, it's just also a part of my crazy mindset. It's just like, what can we do that's bigger every single time? I thought about it, like I've always loved art, and I've always been super passionate about film. When I was growing up, I thought I'd be a screenwriter and director. And at the time, I was also working my own screen prints, and I was selling them just like friends and online. And I was realizing how difficult it was to sell artwork. Funny enough, in the grand scheme of things, screen prints are commonly seen as like, sort of like the catfish of the whole industry, and it's like the very, very bottom tier of the entire fine art structure. But that little sneak peek gave me a greater insight as to how the industry actually functions, or so I thought. So when I was looking into creating a solution, I was like, let's create an online marketplace where independent artists can sell their artwork directly to collectors. They can just bypass the whole system, save a ton of money. Seems like a great idea, right? It would have blown up just like Pronto immediately. No, it failed. Nobody used it. Artists were super excited. Collectors were a little skeptical. There's that whole cold start problem they have to solve in terms of having enough product as well as collectors on both sides for marketplace to actually scale. But also, from experience now, I also understand art marketplaces in general do not scale for many other reasons. I took that failure, sat with it, and I was like, hey, let's actually just figure out what the solution is. Let's figure out what a concrete problem within this industry actually is. And I understood that the best way to understand a concrete problem was by just living the experience. Ambitious, super exciting to the world, but to me, I was just like, let's just figure out what this problem is, jumped right into it, started my own gallery, Strada Gallery, based mostly in New York City. It kicked me off as being the youngest gallerist in New York City, and with that, was able to work with really talented artists who took a leap of faith with me. I was believing in them, made sure that we were just focusing on helping them scale their careers as well as their networks with collectors and helping them sell their artworks. I started off really scrappy, resourceful, created a new model called the nomadic model that I didn't really know of at the time. The only model that I knew of was the traditional model, where it's like you get your brick and mortar space, you sell your artwork, and then you just grow from there. But I was like, hey, what if instead of doing that, which seems like a really big commitment for something I'm not super passionate about, let's do a nomadic model where every single exhibition is a completely new location. We don't repeat locations, and we're also a lot more flexible. So we can start off in New York City, but then we can also go to Chicago, we can go to Los Angeles, and we can also go to Miami, and just tap into every single one of these largest art locations across the United States. And also kept it exciting as well. The community they're building out too. It's every single time Disney, they're like, oh my God, where are they gonna be next? Which is a lot of fun to see their excitement for as well. So on top of that, I was also just saw that there was a problem of just a lot of exhibitions to me personally were not exciting or innovative. It just was just slap some paintings onto the wall and didn't really take anything further. But what I was always excited about in terms of going to art institutions growing up were museums who would incorporate fashion, they would incorporate music, they would also incorporate video as well. So I was like, why don't we just bring that within the commercial setting, still focus on selling works that are more commercial on the walls, but just make sure we're including something that pushes the exhibition further. So here are 3 exhibitions that we had done. One here in New York City, this one in Los Angeles, and then the one on the left here, it's also here in New York City with a fashion brand, including a couple of their pieces that they designed for the Met Gala. We did the nomadic model for 2 to 3 years. I felt like we were picking up a lot of steam, growing a really solid community, but also I was just sort of hitting that ceiling again. I was like, what could we do that's bigger? I also understood that the calendar that we were working with as well, within the art world, where it's a massive boom financially in the fall, dies down in the winter, starts to climb back up spring through summer. Coincidentally, what falls in that fall going to the winter period is the holiday season, where a lot of people wanted more affordable, accessible objects, which would also give us an opportunity to work with artists who, just like myself, were sort of at that lower tier with screen prints, more functional, affordable objects like plates, mugs, vases, home goods, that sort of thing. So with that whole accessibility mindset, branched out. We added a new branch called Design Lab that worked alongside the gallery model, where we would focus on online sales exclusively because they're so affordable. People are happy to just purchase them online through Instagram, TikTok Shop, our own website, as well as just helping these artists expand their reach as well. In that, gained a lot of valuable insight just as to how their process works. What are they working on? What are the issues that they're facing with their volume, their inventory, as well as how do they sell to collectors on their own. Once I felt like we hit that ceiling, I was like, okay, what are we gonna do now that's bigger? How are we gonna even grow beyond that? And I felt like I was ready at that point then for a long-term space, a long-term location. Found this one beautiful space right here in New York City on 329 Broome Street, which coincidentally was also the same exact location that I ever had the first ever pop-up Strada exhibition. So full circle, back to the same exact spot, but now something I could take on as a personal responsibility. And I did. I was like in there doing a lot of renovations on my own, and bringing a lot of people for the more difficult tasks like electricity. But overall, a great project. And what it offered in terms of like opportunity and insight was what are the actual concrete problems that the majority of gallerists are facing within the middle market, as well as like in between the middle and the lower market. Created the opportunity as well to work with larger collaborators, bigger partners. From here within this space, we're also able to most recently collaborate with Sotheby's, which is the leading auction house for the past 2 centuries. Whitney Museum we had in there, the Name Museum, Studio Museum of Harlem was in there as well. And during this process was also to receive the Design Visionary Grant from the Brooklyn Museum, which was awarded us $100,000 in funding to really help us push this practice forward. But again, I was like looking here, I was looking at everything that we were doing, and I was really proud of the impact that we were able to have. Just in terms of branding, reputation, and network, super substantial in terms of what we were able to accomplish within 3 to 4 years alone, being able to work with key partners, institutions, and collaborators, as well as receive really great press to help boost the Strada name and the Strada brand. But again, I was like, what can we do that is bigger? I was able to see on our side as a gallery the issues that we were facing in the middle market, as well as working with independent artists and design lab artists, I was able to see the problems that they're facing in the lower market, and then also just like collaborating with larger scale institutions, having one-on-one conversations with them, getting more market insight, just seeing what the problems existed on the highest tier. And this was the experience that I really needed. The problems that I had personally with starting the marketplace, zero personal experience. I had no idea. These were all just like problems I was assuming. I was also assuming solutions, and now I had actually had first lived experience as to what a concrete problem that exists that is full vertical and industry-wide. Just to give a little bit more insight as to these different tiers. At the very top, we have auction houses, museums, blue chip galleries as the main leaders within this industry. Middle tier are more like commercial galleries. Bottom tier, independent artists. Core problem that I realized, if you remember the original thing that I came up with, tech-based, lack of digital inventory management systems to quickly go through your archive, to speed up your sales and curatorial processes. Currently, at the highest tier, curatorial teams, one of the largest costs for non-commercial institutions. Exhibition teams and curatorial teams take a few months to curate exhibitions. And then for the sales team, they're facing very similar issues in terms of what are these processes that they're going through, and the issues that they're facing is that it's very manual. Curatorial teams, what you currently see here in terms of like the more archaic systems are very text heavy. You also need to know exactly what you're looking for in order to find anything. Whereas the average person within this space is a very visual person. I think humans in general are just visual people, but especially when you start working like professionals within the art spaces, even more visual. Also very thematic, very text heavy in terms of the documents that they're reading, but not necessarily text heavy just based on titles and the names of certain objects below. And then same goes on the sales side of things. Very manual process. You have your list of collectors, you have your list of inventory and artworks, but there's no systems currently available to help people just sort through them, as well as speed up the sales and curatorial process. Sat with this, realized about a year ago today that this larger solution that we can provide can come in the form of just one platform that targets the 3 main essential team members within each of these organizations, full vertical solution from the highest tier of the art world to the middle tier, even available for independent artist teams as well, being Maestro. And this is something that we've been working on very quietly, finally done, finally built, very excited to start rolling it out in the next month or 2. But what we're doing here is just redefining efficiency. How do we have the fastest process to just go through all of your files based off of a general search? We take in embeddings for visuals, thematic and textual embeddings, just to make sure that we are prioritizing and reordering all of your files based on this general search. You no longer need to know the exact name of anything that you're looking for. Just throw in your curatorial statement, throw in a description, throw in a paragraph that you've written about a general concept or theme of work that you want to find, and we'll provide it to you. Same thing goes on the sales side as well. You no longer need to know like every single collector in your list, remember what sort of work that they're interested in, reference notes. Instead, all those notes are already there and categorized. We automatically tag and categorize artworks as soon as they're uploaded to Maestro. And whenever you upload a new artwork that best fits what a previous collector is looking for, we provide a recommendation, speeding up the sales process. This is something I'm really excited about in just terms of helping speed up the workflow process across the entire industry. But this never would have happened had I stuck to the original concept that I pushed so heavily for when I first started Strada. Going from a marketplace into realizing that that's not something that people want, and then going to actually understanding the root cause and the root problems within this industry is the only way that we could have come to this point and set ourselves up to be successful. I think it's just one thing we'd love to lead with is just sharing is like the first solution is not always the best solution. And sometimes it takes living through the actual experience, iterating, and reevaluating before you figure out what the best option can be. Thank you.